Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast. This is your host, as always, Adam Lowery. I have definitely been getting your emails based on my last video. Yeah, I put it out there like that. I'm going to let that offer stand out there on social media for a little while and see if he's willing to take me up, or any one of those gentlemen are willing to take me up. But I just spoke from the heart. I spoke from what I felt and what I feel. So I don't mean to offend anybody directly or attack your beliefs, but in a way, I just don't want you to be taken advantage of anymore and sold things. And I want you to believe in the power of you. And that's kind of what I'm angling on here, is too many people can become even addicted to optimization. You can become addicted to that motivation you need every morning. I mean, think about it. If every morning you got to wake up and you have to play an inspirational video or read some so-called inspiring meme just to get your day going, well, that too can be an addiction. And I'm just trying to urge people to look within inside themselves and use the power of themselves and not be attached to speakers that honestly aren't saying anything and are charging you bukus of money because I guess they made it, so we should do what they do or something. We live our own authentic lives, however that is for you and however you find your happiness. That's what I aim to help you reveal with my book, In the Cognitive Rampage, which is not the way. It's not the source. What it is a framework put together from 4 or 5 different variations, from behavioral, from environmental to cognitive psychology, even biology, and pulls those together in sort of a cognitive rampage to say, look, here is a bunch of framework that you can follow along with and apply in your life and put your answers, your solutions into your life, because you know your truth, not me, not some steps or somebody else standing on a stage pumping you full of motivation that may deflate, that's not even researchable. And speaking of research and researchable, well, finally, the man Drew Peters has come onto the podcast, and I went straight to his name. And like I usually do, I let them introduce themselves, but I think he's too humble. So I'm going to see if I can be the hype ring man for this top formulator from Nebraska who loves what he does, has a passion for putting out good products, science behind it, which I think is important, not just good packaging and good salesmanship, but a man that stands behind research and science before profit, before commercial, before putting forward the business brand ahead of the customer. And I met him at Europa, actually, a couple weekends ago, 2 weekends ago here in Orlando, and was doing an interview for ESPN, another show that I host, Fit Project Radio. And he gave me the best 10 minutes at that Europa show. And we aired that on the radio show on ESPN. We will be, May 29th, actually, on my birthday. He'll be on the ESPN show airing that interview. But after that interview, I had to bring him to the podcast where we are not held in to, no matter, watch your children's ears, what the fuck we say, when we can say whatever the hell we want to, when we can cognitive rampage as long as the fuck we want to, and we're not held between commercials or ESPN or 580 radio or whatever. There are no brand names here. Drew Peters represents himself, and he is not only a master of science from the well-known Nebraska Strength School, Huskers. I'm a Hurricane fan, though, man, so it kind of hurts a little bit, but, you know, he is a certified strength and conditioning trainer, specialist, does editorials, does formulations. When you think of, Breaking Bad, okay, this is the guy that you think about who's back there putting your scoop this and scoop that and mixing all this up. This is the guy. So all those powders that you're trusting, those brand names that you're trusting, and you may not know why, he's one of the guys that are coming up with new formulas, testing old ones. He's a freelancer. He does some work with some big brand names already that we will not mention here because that's not what this is about. This is about the real science. And that, my friend, may be one of the longest intros I ever did, Drew, man. Welcome to the show, brother.
Welcome. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, man. Today, yesterday, ESPN, you're all over my life for the last couple of days, dude.
Hell yeah, man. It's a good place to be out here. You got some good exposure, good guy to chat with. I will soften the blow a little bit for you there. Technically, I'm from the University of Nebraska, Omaha, so we are the Mavericks. We're kind of like the bastard stepchild of the Huskers.
Oh, well, excuse me. Well, even on the interview, I screwed that up, dude. Thanks for not making me look like an idiot on ESPN, man.
It's all good. Nebraska Huskers, the big school. If you pick University of Nebraska Omaha, people would think the Huskers anyway, so it's all good.
That's exactly what I did, man. Shit. I appreciate it. You let me look smart and stay smart on my own radio show, man. You're such a class act, dude.
Well, hey, I gotta be humble. I'm hosting you today, right?
Yeah, you say you're humble, brother, but once you fucking jump in your realm and you're in your lane, shit, man, you're out there like Play-Doh, bro, just dropping stuff, man. It's crazy.
Never in Uzis. Click clack.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start or even talk, man. But you're wrapping up your week, doing what you're doing. This is how I love to open the podcast, man. When I catch myself crossing over, but into the bullshit guy. I fucking caught myself right there, dude. I started talking and I started turning this radio voice, dude. And I was like, where's this fucking guy going? Not you, myself, right? Man, you got to reel me back in, man, because we just did the damn radio show yesterday, you and I.
Yeah, and it was crisp. It was good. It was great content. I'm excited people to hear it.
Well, because you did all the talking.
Yeah, to some extent. But hey, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. I'm kind of the horse. I have to find the fountain. You led me there.
Yeah, I like that, man. I use a metaphor when I'm doing group therapy for substance abuse or something like that. One of the things I like to do is say, look, man, I used to talk about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. The more research I'm now doing with Dr. Bobby Hoffman, there may be no such thing as intrinsic motivation. But when I used to make the correlation, just for a metaphor, I'd say, look, we can give you all the tools, all the help, all the things that you need, like a horse, right? We can lead you to water, but I can't make you drink. And trust me, there are millions laying dead along the water's edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny you mentioned extrinsic motivation brings back old grad school. We had multiple classes, even in exercise physiology, kinesiology, working on my master's. We cover a huge part of that in motivation, physical activity, cognitive behavior as a result of exercise influences that. Like literally they say exercise is the best drug. I kid you not. That was actually on the Exercise Club t-shirts. I'm an old man, and the old age of 23 back then in grad school, so I wasn't having none of their shirts, but we had this old doctor, Dr. Berg. That's what he stood by. Exercise, the best drug. And the guy was like 60 years old. He had like a gold chain, and he was a complete boss.
Yeah. I mean, it can really put you on different levels. And I can hear a bunch of psychedelic people going, no, sir. I haven't met a supplement or a deadlift that took me to level 4 of sacred geometry.
Well, clearly they ain't lifting heavy enough.
I love it, man. That was quick. Yeah, you know what it could be. I've heard some people that are deeply involved in meditation, able to reach some certain levels like that, or able to, have out of body experiences, etc. I've heard some people. I mean, I personally have never been close on a meditation level, but I mean, do you meditate?
For a big lift, my meditation consists more of like along the lines of Slipknot, a bunch of stimulants, and trying to rip something in half. But that's my meditation. In all seriousness, no. I mean, sometimes you can only get amped up so much. They find one thing intrinsically. You're talking about the psychological things of that. As you mature in your training age, it's kind of funny. Some well-known bodybuilders, older gentlemen, they don't listen to heavy music. They listen to like classical Mozart, the lifting, the arts of lifting. I'm not at that level yet in terms of chilling out that much. I'd probably fall asleep.
You heard what I was playing just before you came on, right?
Yeah, because some guys will lift to that. I'm like, you know what? That ain't me. I need something a little more, up tempo. But I can only
still mad at some things.
Yeah, get a little pissed off at the world. I mean, there's certain times it's amazing. I know you can relate to this too. There's certain times exercise and having music influences your life. Things of like for exercise, getting amped up, that's a good thing. In terms of listening to Hollywood Undead radio on your fucking super sport bike and you're zipping on the interstate in traffic, that's not a good thing. I mean, you get too amped up, you start cutting off cars, and all right, what's up?
Yeah, I switch a few times. I go through phases when I'm working out. I've yet to be the guy to work out or lift to classical. I'm not that. Thank God, I guess I'm not that old yet. So I will start a podcast and play some Bach, as you saw before I load up the podcast. Maybe it's the symmetry of the music that you begin to appreciate as you get older, because the chaos seems to be infinitely forever. And so if maybe that classical sometimes gives you that moment to where this is perfectly in line with, what you expect. But man, not every once in a while, actually, yeah, it's either going to be some hip hop or I'm definitely coming in with some Godsmack, Metallica, that kind of stuff for sure.
There you go. I mean, you don't want to come and amped up the interview and have your brain in 10 different places. It's the same with stimulants. Like, how many cups of coffee I had today? Let's redial this in about 4 o'clock after I've toned down a bit.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm drinking my own stimulant coffee here. All right.
Well, it's all right. I mean, you're just getting your day started. I'm sure you got up at, probably 2 today.
No, sir. I was up at 5:30 today.
Oh, on the contrary, I was not. So therefore, good job.
I was up at 4:30. Had a wonderful meeting at 9 by a guy named Darian, who I really hope is going to take over all the marketing and social media for all of Cognitive Rampage and like 3 other projects that we're doing. So I had him, then a crosstown meeting, 2 interviews, and this guy Drew that I've yet to really start to interview yet on the podcast, man. So let me ask you, man, walk me back to the little Vanilla Gorilla. Walk me back to that hometown. Tell me where you come from. What was it like, man? I mean, was it bigger, stronger, faster type? Was it wrestling there? What was it? Was it sports? Take me home, man.
Well, I'm originally from a small town in Nebraska. Well, imagine that. It's not all small towns, so, I see your smart ass over there laughing at me. The biggest city is Omaha. It spouts,
Hey, man, I'm from a place called Ocoee.
Ocoee?
I mean, come on. Right. See, you can't even pronounce it. I was born in Pine Hills, but I was actually raised halfway more in Ocoee. So I'm with you on the whole small town, country town. You know what I mean?
I got you. I mean, at least my hometown doesn't sound like some sushi. But originally, I'm from DeWitt, Nebraska. Interestingly, if you've heard of the vice grip locking
sudden, dude, fucking formulator, scientist, comedian, mass bodybuilder, strength guy on the side. Good Lord, man.
Hey, man, you gotta pay the bills. What's up with that? But like I say, it's a little small town known out of all things in the world-renowned vice grip locking pliers. That's what was made in my hometown. It takes up, I believe, 8 city blocks. Long ago, they sold a Rubbermaid about 10 years ago, so it's long gone. But that's what the town's known for. Small town, about 600-700 people, and little Vanilla Gorilla, and of course, high school. Back in the day, it's one of those Class C in Nebraska high schools. I'm not sure what equivalent that would be in Florida, but for example, my graduating class had 40 people in it.
Wait, what?
40 people.
My graduating class had 996, and that's because they suspended a few of my friends at the end. So, I mean, wow, my class size was 45. My every 6th period was 45 kids.
Exactly. So you think you have a small town. I'm from a small town. My town had less people in your graduating class.
So, okay, you win, man. I'm sorry.
It's all good. We're out in the cornfields. Apparently we have dirt. We just got outhouses last week, so a big technological advancement in Nebraska. Running water, that's coming next month. But regardless, it's one of those places. You grow up and you play all the sports typically. You play football in the fall. I wrestled in the wintertime. We were a big wrestling school. Track in the spring, our school was Tri-County High School. It was stacked in track. My name's on 3 state championship trophies. We were just good at track. I didn't do anything. I just shot and disc and kind of slept because I got done with wrestling this season.
I was going to say, I was that guy too, where we just threw things kind of far, but not very far. But we were, you know what though, man? I did run the mile in high school. And one time, and it was funny because I was a linebacker, and you would line up, and the little guy would be like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'll be right with you too, buddy," for a little while.
Oh, I hear you. The thing is, my senior year, I played baseball too. I actually had a broken bone in my wrist. My senior year of wrestling, I broke a bone, and I didn't go to the doctor until 2.5 months later after state wrestling. You're 34-10. You're not going to fuck that up. And get the track season, didn't heal, had a surgery. So I'm not obviously throwing shot put in discus with a broken wrist. So I heal, whatever didn't heal, so I need surgery later, but then I'm not throwing. So I need an event. I'm not exactly the fastest sprinter. So instead, I remind you, wrestled 189 in high school. Not a small guy. I'm on the track, and my coach is, all right, you're going to run the open 8 and the 4x8, which is the worst race ever. It's a half-mile sprint. You lay down the ball and you cry afterwards. Yeah. But I hear you there. You're like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah, it's fun, man. I enjoyed that part, man. So it's a small town. You're pretty much the All-American Friday Night Lights, Varsity Blues. That's what I'm living at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We throw up in the washing machine. You had too much, Billy Bob style. We drink some maple syrup and decide to pick up the truck. So all that good stuff.
All right, I'm there. Hey, man, Ocoee with big trucks and big Chevys. So it was either a big, box Chevy on 20s, actually small spokes at the time. Or it was a big Chevy 1500 on 44s. So it was 50-50 really where I'm from.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys are lucky. You had vehicles, so we had red wagons. We had to pull each other around.
You're gonna keep going, man. So, all right, man. So I get it now. You're the all-around athlete the whole time, man. So did you go to play some college sports?
Initially, I lifted all through high school. I was recruited for football, wrestling, and for baseball. I mean, I wasn't all that big for a lineman. In high school, they D-tackle offense as well, offensive line. I was all district, but then again, you're not getting too many calls when you're 190 pounds in lineman. I had to switch position. I just really didn't want to get my body beat the piss for college ball. To me, it wasn't worth it. My first love was baseball. So I was recruited for baseball. I was going to be signed on as a catcher. Then with the broken bone in my wrist, pretty much my entire freshman year after 2 surgeries was sat it out. And they assigned 3 players of my position in that off season. So by a year in and having taken a year off already, I decided to focus on school more instead. So I ended up wrestling for a year at the college level, and then just the time commitment, and I just didn't love the sport anymore. It gets that point.
What was that like? What was that year like, man, wrestling? I mean, I played college football, but wrestling, those guys always seem to be working harder than we were. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It always seemed to be those guys were running way more than we were.
I'm just, anybody who's ever wrestled knows that wrestling is the toughest sport on the planet. It's the oldest sport on earth. There's no teammates to bail you out. It's 100% physical. It's one of the most physically demanding sports there is in terms of that.
That's why those guys can transfer to the MMA, UFC, all those different fighting styles so well. Because, I mean, that is the base, really. A lot of those guys are base wrestlers from college, collegiate level wrestlers that transition to MMA. Even some stand-up boxers will rotate. But that's pretty much the base. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about wrestling is amazing, just the different levels of cream keeps rising to the top. There'll be kids that'll kill everybody in youth wrestling in junior high. They get to high school, they get their ass kicked, or they'll be, good God, even college wrestling is a completely different animal than high school. There'll be 4-time state champions that won't be able to make varsity in college. There'll be college NCAA championships. Okay, they won't even get a shot at making the Olympics. Everybody, I believe a good analogy of this, have you seen Moneyball, right, with Brad Pitt? A good analogy I like to use for sports, or why do you play anymore, is like, we're at some age, we're all told that we're too old to play. Some were told at 18, sometimes you're told at 40. But when you find that age, you just don't love the sport anymore, you can't stay healthy, or you want to focus on other things, like in my case, doing a double major or something like that. I just, moved on, stayed healthy, and
man, that's strong of you to do, man. I have to point it out because I work with athletes directly, and my specialty is either performance or ex-athletes. And a lot of the times, man, there's not a lot of attention being called to it. But when we lose that label, that who we are label, is when a lot of us go off the railings, man. I mean, you see addiction is high, violence is high. It gets terrible, and it seems you recouped really quick. You took that label, applied, all that same effort and energy, like you said, you double majored, and you seem not even to, even trip up about it, man. So that's a big deal. That's a tough trench for people to jump so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you miss it, but at some point, that's all it takes on your body over those years. And obviously, I found a different avenue. Got into basic strength conditioning athletes, trained as an athlete of explosive Olympic movements and powerlifting. And then, of course, now these days I bodybuild. So we find the love of lifting is a lifetime sport. And, you should see me play golf. The baseball player in me comes out. I mean, apparently it doesn't matter if you hit the ball 350 yards if it doesn't stay on the course.
Yeah. And my cousin, Dar Lowery, shout out to you. I haven't seen you in a while, man. We grew up together, but he took golf really serious and took a couple of shots at the pros. I guess you got to pass like a PAT or something. He missed it by like a stroke 3 times. I mean, he's really good, man. And that's a game. I'm telling you what, man. No, sir.
Game you can play your whole life and still suck.
I hate it. I hate it, man. It's not. And I used to say it's not a sport, man. That's a game. That's a game. If you can smoke cigarettes and play that and beat people, that's not a sport.
That's exactly how I've always viewed golf. It's not easy by any shape or form, but my general thumb is if you can drink or smoke while you're playing a sport, I don't really qualify as a sport.
I don't know. Maybe that's too fast, man, because who's that fighter? Joe Schilling. Joe Schilling, who he would smoke cigarettes in between bouts and before. I mean, he's a bad motherfucker.
Yes, he is.
I think one of the first fights or some of the fights he lost is when a new trainer would beg him to quit smoking. And I think one of the first bouts he lost is when he put down the cigarettes. So, I'm going to hold my tongue, I guess, and kind of say, because you see it, though. You see a guy, John Daly, and then you see Tiger Woods. And you're like, well, these are the obviouses. I'm just pointing them out, okay? I'm not a golf dude, all right? Although the hat would lead you to tell you something different, huh?
A little bit. I mean, also, you can't always generalize them there. I mean, in Tiger Woods' case, women can be bad for your health, too.
Yeah, pretty much screwed his shit up. Oh man, you're right, man. So it seems you just took that same passion. And what are the double majors?
Exercise science and nutritional sciences. So I did, both very closely related ones because it's a broad wealth of knowledge. And on top of that, one thing people ask, like what I do these days, product development, things like that. People ask, what do I need to go to school for that? Like, there's not really a straight line to do what I do. You don't go to college to major to do that. You just kind of do a breadth of things. For example, you do the personal training, the strength coaching aspect of it, but then I also was always very interested in supplements. So I do a lot of research on my own, and then it branched off when I got to grad school doing independent research on supplements, continuing to just like spend hours upon hours upon hours. Like when I read things, I tend to read scientific articles and abstracts because you can like look at the research in the past, look at new emerging things, and I stay current. Then, of course, it's just like self-information, like looking, I guess, from a brand management perspective. You look what else is in the industry, what people are doing, trends, ingredients. Like, oh, that's something new. What is that? Look it up. Okay, there's really nothing on this. Or you may look and say, wow, okay, they're on to something. And then you find different things that are even better than that, more closely related. It's a very fascinating thing. And, it's a lot of things. Do everything, I tell people. It sucks because you do sacrifice because you stay really busy. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's worth it. You get that opportunity because you put yourself in place to do all these things at the right time. It'll happen.
Yeah, you asked a great question for me right there, man. I probably would have got to the point about how you get to be the guy in the lab mixing the powders and stuff. And since we're there in a straight line, so technically to get to be a formulator, if you will, kind of like what you do right now, one of the things you do right now is there is no straight line. I mean, is it just something you can get involved with a company and learn, or is there a foundation?
Absolutely. There's different avenues that people take to get into it. Like one of the most common ones, like if you're like if you have a chemistry background, you're looking to do more of like, formulation or product development in some way, shape, or form. Like, okay, it may formulate for, say, something aside from supplements, then it may have a need for an R&D chemist at a supplement company. Some people get their in from there. Other times, the biggest thing in both strength conditioning as well as supplement industry is networking. Whether it be like it could be I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head because there's numerous examples of this, but I say somebody starts out as like a GMC employee, then they become a manager for whatever reason, they happen to catch the eye of a big supplement company. They come on as like a sales member, and then they get promoted to like say something like a brand manager, somebody that works more in terms of the supplement like formulation, where they may not be directly working in terms of like the nuts and bolts research aspect of it, like in the lab, but at the same time, they may help find ingredients, like make ingredient suggestions, working with the actual chemists. So there's different levels of product development. My chemistry background isn't like as thorough as most people think. I'm definitely more physiology based in terms of things like that and how it interacts with the human body versus, the different molecular levels and different stuff like that. That's not my forte. I never claimed it to be. I'm more physiology.
Oh, well, that's what I like to do is create the image of you with green gloves on and stuff, mixing it up. But it becomes a team effort though, because you merge those two, like you're saying. There's different levels of it. So I mean, if somebody could this be? I'm jumping right in. Could this be part of the problem though about how we become formulators, how this is put together? I mean, to where it seems so, I don't want to say unregulated because I don't want to regulate some shit, but I mean, I know what we're going to get into talking about how there's so much disarray and chaos about what's real, what's not, what's okay, what's illegal, what's a loophole. I mean, we're going to jump in there, but could part of it be that is that essentially if you, I don't know, meet the right people, get the right thing, make the right idea, and make the right product or something, then you're out there. But I don't know, man. Could it be?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's no, straight line to get there. And sometimes it's a whole bunch of like things of like, it's who you know. And then also depending on, what you do. Like a big part, ideally, if you weren't exactly a chemist may not know so much in terms of exercise physiology. They need the physiology guy for what are we, what if I can make a product, but great, what am I making? Like, what do I need to put in this? Versus me, like, okay, we need, like, say, these ingredients. Like, a good example here, like formulating something like a pre-workout, for example, on a powder. It has to be able to flow freely. It has to be, something can be able to mix, taste, all those good things like that. So a big part of what I would do in terms of that is, okay, say we're going to put together a pre-workout, like this random on my head. Okay, we want to put these ingredients.
Pull that mic up, man, because you talk really fast
I'll slow
And
down.
you
Sorry about
talk fast that if I can't get you right in the mic, I'm going to miss a lot.
that. Okay, no problem, no problem.
That's just because I'm a dummy and you're really smart with a lot of information. So you're like with awesome
Oh, yeah.
information. And so I'm going to try to write this down too. So.
No problem. I've been told I talk fast before, so once again, I have to catch myself at occasion. So don't
No,
worry.
don't change yourself because of me, man.
No,
Don't
it's all good.
change because I'm slow.
I'm like one of those wind-up monkeys. Now you're going. So
You've got a lot to say, man, and it's serious.
yeah.
You know? And I can tell that you're used to those 3-minute interviews,
Mhm.
to where they kind of hit because you were excellent. When I hit you with the 3-second interview, really, I mean, you were like, and this is the product that we choose. And I mean, even with the right tone of voice above the echo of the expo, dude, it was perfect. It was spot on. But you don't have anywhere
All right.
I'm
I
kidding,
see
man.
dead people.
Yeah,
And then Sixth Sense visual is popping out here.
I'm
But
totally.
a big part of what we do is, like, say, a formulator standpoint is more physiology based. Like, this is what we want to put in the product because this is what it does. The thing is, with certain times when you mix certain ingredients together, they may not work well. Like, for example, there's a very great ingredient out there. It's called Hydromax. It's a patented form of glycerol from a company called Glanbia, a big distributor. It's excellent for cell volume, hydration, and other things like that. The downside to it is when it mixes with a lot of things, it can kind of cake up. It's very hygroscopic. In other words, it traps water, and it can do funny things to the powder. So that's like, the R&D part of, like, okay, this is why we want in here. Here's research. But then, like, the chemist's job is to put, okay, how can we mix these together and keep it from becoming a brick? And kind of like, or if, like, something like a capsule, for example, you have, like, say, yohimbe hydrochloride with berberine hydrochloride, these different acids. Is it going to cause, like, a different, pH that we can't have? Or is it going to eat at the capsule or something like that? Not like bad, but like, it's just a gelatin capsule. It can cause issues with the mixing or the compression of things. So that's the big part of the chemist does compared to, say, like the formulator, if that makes sense.
No, it makes tons of sense. And I think the microphone was working better the way you left it, my friend. Probably the way it was designed. So you could probably just let that thing go. It was working better before. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm glad that you can make that distinction. You know how? Because, people do. They would imagine two white coats standing there, right? Like holding the stuff, making it right. But I get it how you have to make that transition, right? There's the transition, the guy who does the transmission, he's your specialist, who can get in there and open it up when the typical mechanic can't do that. But the transmission guy, I guess he's got to know the rest of the engine, though, if we got to go that far.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, so I can see the merge, though. And what I have noticed is your degree, your exercise physiology degree. This is what I've noticed in bodybuilding and supplements, in training, personal training. This seems to be the path, though. It's not, I mean, you say there's no straight line, but it seems to be that's where everybody goes toward education.
Yeah. Essentially, you want to be, especially if you want to work in, like, say, the supplement and nutrition field, that's your closest related one. But, people can come from, say, a chemistry background or things like that as well. So there's not like a straight line. Oh, I need to go to college for this because I want to do, like, your job. Because the thing is, every job that works in the supplement industry, unfortunately, bless a lot of things people I know, it's like a job is kind of a hybrid of many things. So while I do product development, I'm also heavily involved in marketing and brand management. I'm also heavily involved in consultation, things like finding contract manufacturers, which is more on the purchasing side. I'm involved in ingredient sourcing. Then I get interested inquiries on nutrition. Like, some people are good at that, but then they may not be as specialized in nutritional manipulations for clients. So I wear many hats. I have expertise on many things, and that's why, it's a different adventure every day.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. So, I mean, you go right into it. Into what was your first gig? What was the first time, your first shot to where you're like, wait, this may be it. This is the job I've been looking for.
Actually, it was when it was on a website. It was supplementreviews.com. I actually came across it. It's very infancy. It was dead, completely nothing on it. Started rolling with it, essentially just participating, helping out the guy that owned it. It was just dead. Kind of started, there was like question and answer section, a forum, things like that. I've been doing all this research on my own, so I kind of started posting some articles just because, I was bored in college. I had a wrist and a cast, and started going through it, question and answer type stuff. Lo and behold, the site starts getting momentum, and the owner of the site approaches me and says, "Hey, I could use your help running the site. I'll pay you for this." Started out as basically just a helper, then 4 years. I was with the site up until April of 2015 when I moved on to bigger things. I was the director of operations and marketing. A big part of what we did, and I know is what you want to touch on as well as transparency industry. What it was is supplementreviews.com itself. It was an unbiased supplement review source. So essentially what it was is a place for people to come on after they had purchased a product and write a review from it. There's no incentive to write a review. We'd police it very heavily. Like if we suspected a review was written by a biased source, we could track IPs, we could track all these different things. There's many safeguards so that it keeps the source unbiased. You can't provide an incentive like money or a free product to write a review, which may persuade a positive or negative. We didn't let people spam it. There's a minimum requirement, there's reputation points, a whole bunch of weighted things to prevent bias in the site. But a big part of that kind of was a great gauge for the industry to rely on. If they want a place to have reviews done for products, they can always post on there, have independent people not associated with the company test their product, review it, get honest opinions, and people have a reliable source to see what people are really saying in real time about their products. So that's a big part of how I got into the supplement industry. That was huge. Just doing that, all the companies knew me because, hey, we'd like you to get our product up and running, or branched events.
Ever get any backlash from some products that you bashed?
There's quite a few. Actually, I think the biggest one on here.
Man, you're like, holy, which one?
Actually, for the most part, at a certain point, I didn't review a ton of products myself. I kind of focused more on the nuts and bolts of the site, recruitment of members, people, but good quality reviewers, because one is like, the head guy. There'd be certain products like I'd review. There'd be certain ones like, all right, they'll be buried soon enough anyway. I don't really need to say anything. Kind of went on for it. And then if we need final judgment on things, I'd weigh in. But really, the best thing I've learned in the supplement industry is, honesty and good reasoning behind things is the best way to go. Whether it be in your network, you never want to burn bridges. You never want to throw anybody under the bus. Play nice because nobody's completely innocent. I'm sure, even no matter what company you're with, maybe the best out there, but somebody will find something back in the day that wasn't right, and they'll come after you for it. So nobody's got no dirt. Now I met a few people at the expo when I was interviewing that did not play nice, that threw many name brands under buses, and we're not shy about it. I mean, they seem to not care. And so heck, I mean, look at me, the video I dropped yesterday, I didn't play nice. And I'm sure there's, not sure, I know there's flaws in my approach because I call it a theory that tells you it's a theory. I think you're right. We all have our own flaws. So I understand that. I can get that. Yeah, I mean, a big part of this, like, I'm sure everybody knows that I could throw some companies on the bus that I know are doing some things they shouldn't be, but then again, a lot of them are already known about, so at the same time, what good's going to come of it? It's not that I'm not telling people so they don't find out it hurts the industry, but the thing is, like, everybody already knows, and me repeating what's already been said is not going to help it. And sometimes, it's like, okay, it's just another person bashing this company. If they correct their mistakes, I think everybody needs a second chance to move on with it if they've done things to rectify it. So unfortunately, you are right. There are some big names of companies that do cut some corners that are very obvious. Been dinged with a few things in recent times with the amino spiking or having different ingredients in their products and they're listed. But the thing is, okay, everybody's just lining up and taking big shots at the big target, while they're down. Well, that's great. That doesn't do anything to our benefit. The way I've always gone about things in my formulations or anybody I've worked with is like, all right, let's focus on what we're doing right and promoting that rather than have a marketing plan calling out somebody about what they're doing wrong. It just,
Yeah, I get it. And for me, I think it's just hard for me to swallow when people are taken advantage of, by, just straight out direct either lies or things that aren't even real. And, and it's in what you say is true, because in order to survive, like you said, in the supplement business and what you're doing, you can't bash like that, because then everybody will just gang up on you and it's over. And truthfully, in the self-help world, I'm about to figure out if it's really like that, because the way I'm kind of approaching this is going, you know what? I think people are actually becoming disenfranchised with the self-help world. They're starting to realize what's out there, the routine, how it goes down. You just wind up writing a how to get rich book at the end of your whole thing. And I think people are starting to realize that, like you said, people are starting to just realize what's real, what's not. They're doing their own research. They're beginning to discern. And I can see your story so much more clear now on how you were immersed in customer experience and customer response.
Yes, absolutely. So the thing is, I had the benefit of not starting with any specific company. I kind of got to be the watchdog of
You
the
were
entire
biased.
industry. Exactly. So I didn't have to like or dislike anybody. That's the best part. Some people are ingrained like right off the bat. Oh, this company, that company, for our reasons, views my enemy. But that's the nice part. I have many friends throughout the entire industry, and it's benefited me very well. And I continue to hold those relationships no matter who I work with. There's no point in burning a bridge because the thing about the industry, it's a very small world. You never know who's going to end up where, who you're going to be working with, or down the road what company may need your services, or what you want to do with it. So what? Don't burn a bridge. That's just a good rule in life for networking.
Yeah, I would try to find the two formulators that hate each other most, hire them to work together. You probably get some serious stuff.
That'd be like like some dick flavored Darchini protein.
Oh Jesus, man. Yeah, but yeah, I guess I get that, man. You gotta play nice because you rotate, man. But I mean, let's face it, though, a lot of people get taken advantage of on both sides. From our side, I think it's an $11 trillion industry, the self-help and program type, world. I mean, that is tons of money, man. And if somebody had it right, I think we would stop spending money, or at least they would have the $11 trillion or something. You know what I mean? I guess that in fitness too. And you alluded to that in supplementation yesterday is, that they are just that it's supplementation. It's not replacing, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what we talked about yesterday in a good length there is like literally it's supplementing what you're already doing and not replacing. That's the key. People seem to forget that. They always want the magic pill. They always want like the magic formula, but that just doesn't exist.
Where do you think that's coming from these days, man? I mean, what do you really think? There's some generic, definitely reasons. Well, I mean, what do you think? Why? I mean, why are we hunting this? I think you said it yesterday. Pills are money, or pills equal
Well,
something.
pills pay the bills. That's why in the industry, it's a high margin product in terms of how much it costs to make something compared to what you can sell it for. The thing is, everybody wants like a quick fix. It's like the 8-minute abs, or they have the fast food, they have the quick change, whatever. Speed, convenience, things like that. And of course, a lot of times get like pulled apart from something. They think, oh, in this day and age, there should be something quick that I can do to fix this or get the way look that I want, and then they kind of the fact of, oh shit, this is going to take some hard work, or it's going to take other things aside from that. And the marketing of the companies, and sometimes you're right there to oblige by selling them a product saying it's going to fix it. You've already defined print that always says with diet or exercise, but then it's like, okay, if I take this on to look like him, be realistic. Like if such a thing existed, everybody would look like that, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I saw this. There was this pretty cool video. It's one of them corny ones on social media, but it was cute. And these four guys or whatever they didn't feel masculine, and so they spent hours photographing them and airbrushing them to look like four of these famous sexy guy photos. And I mean, they weren't right there, but by the time they were done with the touch ups and the Photoshop, you're like, geez. You're like, wow, all right, so you can make anybody look like anything. It was interesting to see the anthropology hat on that I was wearing after it was over, kind of going, what does that say? What's it say that when you saw it, what you think, what we think, that we have to actually touch it up? This hunt for perfection, this hunt for optimization, man. I mean, that's what drives, your market anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just hilarious you speak on that. One of the things I think of an example there is don't always believe things you see in the photos. There's this big bunch of bullshit that's happened on Instagram. Yes, Instagram rules the world, I know, in terms of shreds.
Wait, does it now? Is that it? So Instagram runs the social media world now, because we all know Facebook's dropping. That's the way of what the baby boomers and the new parents that just had kids. So
Wow, Facebook owns Instagram.
yeah, right. So now they're connected. So Facebook's way out has been Instagram. So they just rebirth themselves. All right. So Instagram, is that it? Because you're 25.
26 as of today.
That's right. Happy birthday, Drew.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody sing along with. No, don't. But happy birthday to you, man. A cool 26, man. That's cool, man.
I know. It was great. Back a quick joke here. I think the best year was when I was 23 years old, because then people ask how old you are, and I'd say, "Well, I'm 23, but nobody likes me because there's a Blink-182 song." So you can always tell how old somebody is, because nobody likes you when you're 23. What's my age again? But if you don't get the joke, I'm like, she's too young for you, bro.
It's true. So yeah, man. So I like to tap into it because me being 30, yeah, I'm 34. I'll be 35 May 29th. And so I get that demographic, and really my demographic. I don't know. They either are or aren't on social media, but I'd still say that Facebook runs that 34 to 44 era.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then underneath that, so you're just underneath me, and you're saying Instagram. That's the rebirth of it. Now I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she's at Snapchat all day, and Twitter is pretty much excuse the pun, but gone the way of the birds.
Yeah, it's just like nowhere irrelevant. Twitter at its day, and it's just kind of out, and Instagram and Snapchat are the ruling. But the point I was making there, just like in terms of like
How the fuck did
photographing
we get
Photoshop.
all the way to damn Snapchat?
Yeah, like before we circle the wagon, we kind of come back to the point.
That's what the rampage is about, man.
Exactly.
We walk down every alley looking with the damn light on, going, anything down this shit? Let's walk down this hallway and then come back out the rabbit hole.
And explore it. Never what you see on social media or ads is what's going to appear to be. There's so many people, there'll be angles, there'll be Photoshop, there'll be lighting, all that crap. People are going to modify their image, and of course, people are going to see that. I'm like, man, I can never look like that. I'm like, you can't. Even the person in the picture doesn't look like that.
Yeah, that's what they were saying in that video, the one I was watching. They're like, see, they don't even. And even if they do, I think it was, who's the soccer player, Ronaldo?
Yeah, Ronaldo.
Yeah, the other guy is supposed to be the most perfect body, right, of all time. And you see the picture, and then you see the touch-ups, and then you see what they do to the... By the time the one guy they just did up with the makeup and photo, I was like, I think he looks better than Ronaldo. It was amazing, how they do that. But it does. It tears apart our psyches, man. I wrote a paper when I was getting my master's degree about, what was the title? That, I don't know, marketing was the end of humanity. That marketing ended... marketing was the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Is once we created that, we began to fuck with the psyche so much that all these symptomatic behaviors start popping up, and we don't even know why.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we create our own beasts, and of course, you have a lot of outside influences. Like you're saying earlier, extrinsic motivation. It's all the outside influence. You may have your own thoughts, but then again, at the end of the day, you realize, like, oh shit, okay, that really did impact me from the outside and change my perspective, or may have swayed me in one way or another, even more so than most people think.
Yeah. What was most influential to you after high school, after the sports? What kept you going, though? What made you want to stay in kind of that customer service realm? You're staying between the chemist and the shelf and watching out for the client when some people are out front selling to the client, So what's keeping you or kept you in that side of the industry?
Well, mainly in the end, what I love doing right now is like I hate sales. It's all numbers driven, and you just lose the art of design. I like to have a say of what goes into the products. I like research. You don't go to grad school and say exercise physiology if you can't handle research. That's for sure. For all the papers and studies and shit you have to do. So you don't generally love that, or you can't hack it. You won't make it there. But then the thing is, like, you're in it. You're like, you know what? For some reason, I like this. How can I do this for a living? I love supplements. I love research. And, I really feel that I can make some cool shakes. See somebody's product, you're like, wow, I can do better than that. I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's see if I can. Lo and behold, you're blessed with the right breaks and the right people to get a chance to do so. You prove it works, and you back it up by intelligence and science and research, and people will listen to you. That's the key. If you come with your guns drawn, this is what we're doing, things will work. And that's how it goes.
What was the first one, man? It looked like you were proud of something that you did. What was the first one that kind of put you up when you made it and you're like, look, I did something. Yeah.
I think the first time that I really basically the launch pad of me being big in the industry. The funny thing is, I know a lot of people in the industry will know who I am, but like a lot of owners of companies will, which is really entertaining, the owners themselves, because of what we did. Really the coming out party, I guess.
Look, I'm just backing you up, bro. I'm sorry, but I'm backing your ass up here because if you didn't catch the interview, anybody listening in the Europa, and you may not go back to it, I'll say that I did talk to, it was like an owner or VP or somebody of the product that they had hired you to represent. And I was like, yeah, can I have an interview for the show? And he was like, you need to talk to that guy right there, the mad scientist. That's how we referred to you as. And so, I mean, you're right. He's saying, I'm just backing you up, dude. So anybody listening, everybody watching, when he's saying that, that's just dead true,
man. Yeah. Appreciate. I know exactly who you're referring to, saying that. It's hilarious. He still calls me Dr. Drew. I'm actually prepping him for a contest right now. Oh, no, that guy is 56 years old. He's doing his first men's physique show. And the dude is shredded.
Nice, man. What's his name? If you don't mind, I'd throw him out there. He's living his cognitive rampage, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy's name is Steve Harrison.
Yeah, that was good, man. Well, Steve Harrison put us together, man. So I love that dude. You know, he didn't take the interview. He could have deboed it. You know, ESPN. All that. He's like, no. That right there.
Yep. Yeah, Steve's a good dude. You know, he's a good client. I actually do his for free. Good friend of mine. Is proud of the guy. You know, it's helped him a lot. Just just kind of give him something to focus on. And he's a great person. You know, I was happy to help him with that, and he's very thankful for that. And no, it's all right. But yeah, I'm happy to help him achieve his goal.
And what I just said, bam, instead of the full version. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving his product some love a little bit without labeling you.
That's all good. But the first big thing that you really know that you've made it, we actually did a booth at Supplement Reviews at the 2013 Olympia. And that was just awesome. You get there, you're like, then all of a sudden, like the momentum of what just came from that, the presence we had there was just like monumental. Just the meetings we had, the people coming up like, oh my God, you're that website. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, people know us. They just walk through the expo, like, keep doing what you do. So it's kind of cool. Then just from that, interestingly, I had a few people approach me in the industry, like after seeing the reviews I wrote and my breakdown of the products. I was like, all right, well, fine. If what do you want to see in here? Why would you put it in there? And they, picked my brain, and lo and behold, one step after another, I end up helping people formulate their products. They consulted for what they put in their products. Like, hey, how can I back up this with research? Do we have anything to stand on here? How would you market this? It's like some side consulting things in terms of, all right, here's what I would do. And then now I get to kind of do it on my own. So it's pretty awesome. I've transpired from an outside perspective consulting into more of a full-time, this is what I do type of gig.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think a lot of people, I was talking to my friend the other day. I'm not going to put him out there, but a lot of people get to this place to where we're working into something and, we want to make a change or do something else. And, I encourage people to not use your resume to look at something new to do. People look at, what are my skills? What am I good at? And then sometimes they just follow that their whole life and wonder why they can't ever be happy. And what you did is you sharpened a skill instead of just saying, hey, I have a skill to mix ideas of, you really didn't have a skill for that, but you went and learned that and then sharpened it. You know what I mean? No, it's the truth. I mean, what I'm saying is that if I have a resume to fix something, I can get good at that. I can sharpen that. But for you had to go learn it. You had to get the competence and then sharpen that tool to go that way, essentially. You know what I mean? And like you said, there's no straight line in a resume to get to your job. You just kind of found something you love to be around, not so much something that you were an expert at. You went and had to become the expert at it. And so I tell people that look for changes, in jobs or careers is, doesn't have to be something that you have the resume in. Look for something you love to do, something that's fun, and then go become the expert at it. Go learn. And you did that, bro. I mean, you immersed yourself from day one in this. I mean, this is by far what you do.
Yeah, and I'm just blessed to do something I love every single day, man.
Yeah, so let's get into some trash, man. Let's get into this, dude. So what do you got, man? I know you told me you had some written down stuff. Maybe you had some. Let's get into it, dog. I mean, we rampage a little bit when we were just texting and talking back and forth. The ESPN stuff interview, you and I ranted afterwards, and way before. And I kind of just want to dive into this stuff, man. We could talk about the industry on the surface all day, but I want to get into the rabbit hole of this motherfucker, man.
Okay, I know a big portion of yesterday what we talked about like the origin of things that are ingredient-wise. A big problem these days in the industry is that sometimes it comes down to, as simple as sounds, ingredients. What I mean by that yesterday, for those of you tuning in for the first time today, a background on this is there's a big issue these days with stimulants specifically. It's fresh in my head. I've been doing quite a few questions on this, been consulted about this. The funny thing about these quote-unquote new stimulants is they're not really all that new. Essentially, back in the 1920s, when ephedra first came on the scene, it was in everything. Everybody was ephedra. It was such a huge hit by one company that all the other companies couldn't get their hands on it because one company had a kingpin. So they went to the lab and started finding things that were chemically similar to ephedra in terms of, for the stimulatory effect. So there was all these Frankenstein chemicals that, basically amphetamines, methamphetamines, different things like stimulant-wise. And there's this wealth of different things that are designed to mimic what ephedra does, but on a chemical level. So what's happening these days is like with these things, technically for a supplement, quote unquote, to be put into a product, it has to be considered safe. It has to be naturally derived. So a good example of this related to the stimulants is geranium stem. Everybody's heard of that these last few years.
Yeah, that was the name. I couldn't remember. Geranium stem, right?
Yes, geranium stem.
Talk louder if you can, man. I don't know. Can you? I think you talk fast and low, and that's why. Talk as fast as you want, but say it loud.
Okay. How about that? A little better? Perfect. So,
yeah, I can hear you.
Essentially, with like geranium stem and all of them, the issue with it is that for the compound, they could technically put it in there because and label it as geranium stem. However, the case is that some of these stimulants, like with geranium stem, the amounts of this compound getting it out of the geranium stem extract would not be anywhere near the purity of a synthetic version of that thing. So since it's a synthetic version created in a lab, it's not natural anymore. But if you list it as geranium stem, the natural extract, there we go. It's not a new ingredient. We don't have to list it, and therefore, it's a loophole. Some people go as far as saying, "Oh, we can find this in this plant, so it's considered a natural extract." But that may not be the case. Or hell, some have even gone as so far hypothesizing, "Oh, we should be able to get out of this one," and not really have any basis whatsoever. That's a few and far between, fortunately, but oftentimes it's a matter of purity of the synthetic version compared to the natural one. And even then, your supplier can completely fuck you. If you go in to buy an ingredient and you say, "Oh, looks like this extract, we can only have new ingredients," because we don't want to put all this money, buy this ingredient, and get sued by whoever because we have to pull it off the shelf because it ends up being banned. So the big question you have to ask is, can we or can we not get that ingredient from the natural source that the supplier is saying? That's a big part of one thing that we have to fight with research. You find independent lab to test a product. So it's a very interesting and ongoing and moving piece in that regard.
I'm in class, baby. I'm taking notes. I'm in class right now. So you just the whiteboard, you just go to work, man. You preach on, man.
All right, perfect. So that is a big part of that these days, is in terms of the different stimulants and ingredients, is like they're called like NDI, which is one word, which is a new dietary ingredient, or another one for ingredients that are, I guess, considered controversial, even if a natural one. They're called GRAS status. There may be some safety concerns, but it's called generally regarded as safe. So there's a bunch of different areas and ongoing parts of iffy ingredients in the industry. I don't mean to scare anybody away. I mean, like, chances are your protein's perfectly, has nothing to worry about. But things with the stimulatory effect are some of the more hardcore pre-workouts or fat burners. I hate the word fat burners. Thermogenics may have some more of those ingredients in there. I know yesterday we also briefly talked about another gray area in the pro-hormone area. Essentially what that was, when we were talking about PEDs, was that it's illegal to sell steroids, obviously, or anabolic steroids. So the gray area, when the pro-hormones are big, is what pro-hormones are, is they are synthetic compounds that are not technically that steroid. However, when ingested in the body through a 1 to 2 step conversion, become a steroid. In other words, that would be by the process of the liver, the organs, things like that. And therefore, they're literally selling steroids over the counter as supplements. So there was another gray area there. Third most I'll touch on here before we can, shift a little bit, is there's things called the research chemical realm. There's things such as clenbuterol or selective estrogen receptor modulators, things like that, where they're essentially research drugs. And what that means is, like, for example, with clenbuterol. You've heard of inhalers, correct? Okay. So, like with inhalers, albuterol is the one that's used in all the inhalers these days for the most part. Clenbuterol is a cousin to that. And the biggest reason is when it was in clinical testing with clenbuterol, they decided they weren't going to pursue testing anymore because the drug administration saw that the half-life was too long. So therefore, if it's ingested, it stays in the system for too long of a time compared to albuterol with the shorter half-life. So the reason that's important, if somebody ingests...
What was the half-life? What were the half-life for the first one, for albuterol?
Buterol is, I believe, I don't want to misquote. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's short acting, 4 to 6 hours versus, I believe the other one's like 10 to 12.
All right, I'm just trying to catch the difference. All right.
It was a pretty drastic difference. Once again, I don't want to misquote. I know it was significant. Like
Yeah, dude, remember, you ain't on the fucking radio, so let a bitch research this shit. If he's saying 4 to 12 and it's fucking 6, email you if you have no life.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, absolutely. But once again, not to misquote, I have to double check. It's been so long since I've looked at that number because I don't. Yeah,
I knew it was left field, but just I wanted a vision. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty vast difference. But the reason that's important is if somebody takes something and has an adverse effect as a prescription, they need to get out of the body quicker, therefore the side effects go away. So the reason, what the whole point of bringing this up is that clenbuterol is used as a cutting drug in bodybuilding or in figure competitions, because while it may be a bronchodilator for asthma, it also has a quote-unquote side effect of increasing metabolism by a drastic amount. Like you sweat bullets on it, you can just cut fat like crazy on it. It's a beta-2 agonist.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's awesome.
I have to go back and, all right, I got to be this student.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lowery? Yes. Yeah, can we back up and first start out with spelling the name of the one that is this ultimate fat cutter that cuts fat in half? What are we talking here? What is it?
Clenbuterol.
Clenbuterol. All right. And we can find this where at?
Disclaimer, do not buy this, but you can just buy it online. Research chem sites. Kid you not, you can buy it perfectly online.
Yeah, allegedly, right? We could buy it online, maybe, right?
Yeah, possibly if you knew where to look.
Allegedly.
It's not illegal to buy. The thing is, it's...
What? Okay, keep going.
It's not illegal. It's perfectly fine to buy under the right circumstances. It's not sold as a dietary supplement. That shit would not fly. You cannot sell a research chemical as a dietary supplement. However...
Not yet, anyway.
Exactly. They can sell them online for research purposes. Therefore, you click the little waiver that you said this is not for human consumption. My mice are really fat. I just want to test them in my lab, so I'm going to buy some Clen and feed them to my mice. Therefore, you can buy it.
Oh, my God. Keep going, brother. Okay.
So that's another good example of another gray area. That isn't so much supplements. It's another, I guess, more on the bodybuilding side of things.
Where now, I've had an interest lately over two things, actually, that maybe it's hopefully, let's walk down this hole, man. I hope you got some knowledge here, is 5-HTP and things like neurotropics.
Oh, nootropics. All right. So interestingly, once again, this is a very emerging area. I haven't done a ton of work in 5-HTP.
Young, man. It's young like you, bro. So I'm going to assume you know more about it than me because you're young.
Honestly, just because it's such a broad area, I haven't been my area of specialty very vaguely, in all honesty. But nootropics is kind of the way things are going these days in terms of supplement industry, and of course, is what is legal and not legal, things like that. Because a good example of this is to the point of pre-workouts and thermogenics. Like for pre-workouts, first days, most would have like 150 milligrams of caffeine. Everybody in the industry catches up. Everybody adapts to having that much caffeine. They got to make something that hits harder.
How much did you say?
Initially, like 100 to 150 milligrams of caffeine back in the day. Everybody adapts to that. They get hooked on pre. They have to make something more potent. The next thing you know, it's 200. Then the next thing you know, it gets bumped to 250. Then 300. And then finally, the ceiling of about 400 milligrams of caffeine is basically like the highest you'll see these days. I mean, few will go over that. But the thing with the point of caffeine is our point of diminishing returns in terms of increasing performance. It's a bell curve. A little bit high performance, then it starts getting detrimental when it gets too high because it can cause anxiety, heart palpitations, and you become overstimulated. It can actually take away from performance.
Yeah, unless you have ADHD. If you have ADHD, caffeine actually acts as a focus drug and can replace Adderall.
Exactly. This is,
Allegedly.
You can't tell people, to do or do not.
Don't ask your doctor, because what I say on every fucking episode, that any doctor prescribing antidepressants is practicing out of his or her scope. So your neighborhood physician should not be prescribing you antidepressants, but legally they can. But I'm here to tell you they're practicing out of their scope. Proceed, sir.
It's the same deal with the doctor talking about dietary supplements, and people think, oh, they're a doctor. They know, like, they haven't been trained in it. They don't have
Most
done
doctors
research.
didn't even have a nutrition class. The younger MDs that are coming out have had more nutrition training. Some of the old doctors, it was not, maybe not even one, or it'd be a nutrition class.
Here's a good example for you here. No names here. One of my GPs, maybe current, maybe not. Once again, not getting specific here, is an older woman. She's probably in her 50s, I'd say, like the 50s, but what? She's a bigger woman. Okay, so I go in and I'm just getting this is my regular checkup. I moved down to Florida here. I need my GP, so I go in the office there. Yeah, and she's doing my blood pressure, my weight, all things like that. And it's like, oh, have you had blood work done lately, cholesterol, things like that? And then I'm like, oh, no, I haven't for probably about a year now. Okay, we'll get that done. So I get on the scale. In my off season as a bodybuilder, I'm still lean. I'm under 10%, and I'm sitting at 256. And so she does say, okay, my blood pressure is actually always abnormally low. I would believe it's like 109 over, I believe, 62. Normal, like the maximum normal is like 120 over 80. So it's relatively low. So good and good. Then she tests my cholesterol, and then she, once again, tests it, come back with a follow-up there. And then my HDL, out of all things, was slightly low, like by like 1 or 2 points. My LDL was great. So my total cholesterol is perfect. If anything, she's nitpicking like the HDL was low. So then she looks at me. It's like, oh, well, the only concern is your HDL is a little bit low. So I'd like, what is the ratio of lifting compared to cardio? So I have this overweight doctor telling me that I need to do more cardio. And
Hold on. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Now, when you say overweight, are we talking obese or are we talking thick?
Say obese.
Wow, an obese. Well, for one, there's two people that piss me off when they're obese, and that's one when it's MDs and two when it's fucking cops. But hey, shit happens though, right? We all go through shit in our lives. Sometimes we hit places, so I don't want to douse that.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
sometimes we deal with stuff, but it's kind of feel pretty shitty though, standing there going, really? Lady, you're talking to a young ass formulator nutrition bodybuilder guy with near perfect scores, and you want to tell me to do more cardio?
Yeah, she's like, oh, like, what's your diet like? I'm like, well, it's pretty immaculate. I bodybuild. I mean, my off season, I still don't go off my damn diet. How long do you work out a day? Typically an hour to an hour 15. How many days a week? 7. Oh, well, what's the ratio of lifting and cardio? Oh, so you have to find something. Just as a GP, she has to say it. But I'm like, woman, are you fucking kidding me? I even go to the extent of making sure my fat source is optimized omega-6 to omega-3, and you're bitching about an HDL. Like, give me a fucking break.
Oh man, well, she's got to flex the MD muscle somehow, right?
She's a sweetheart. She meant well, but at the same time, I'm like, is this really happening right now? Okay.
At least she didn't give you an opiate.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that I heard they got opiate machines out front. You put a quarter in, and you just turn the shit. Yeah. 6 of them come out.
Oh man, South Florida. I think Flock is a drug of choice these days.
Oh my god, who knows, man? So I mean, all right, I love this where we're going, man. Look at this, dude. I'm learning, man. I do this every episode. Go back. I took us off course with the whole squirrel, man. Let's go. Am I saying it right when I say neurotropics or is
nootropics?
Nootropics, man. It just sounds like a place I want to go to.
Yeah, it's a very cool, like in terms of cognitive focused drugs. Once again, hell, I mean, even caffeine can be a nootropic if it makes you feel mentally more alert, more crisp. There's a lot of different ones out there these days. Like I'm not even gonna.
What do you know? Yeah, what do you know about them? Tell me about them. What you know from even your little bit is going to be more than my any bit. So,
what I'll leave it at is this. Therefore, I don't misspeak. Once again, it's not my specialty in terms of nootropics. It's something I'm currently researching and learning more about because I love to learn. The point I was getting at with the caffeine and the pre-workouts up to 400 milligrams is that companies are starting to see like, okay, damn, we're getting to this upper limit of caffeine here. Where can we go from here? Like, if we can't keep increasing the caffeine, we got to make something to make people feel good, lock in, things like that. So then what companies started to do is they started to put in other ingredients that could help cognitive focus, such as nootropics. So therefore, it's not adding more stims, but it's going to help provide mental focus, mental clarity, and enhance the performance of the workout. One of the biggest ones for focus was picomulan or picatropin, which actually got pulled from the market because once again it came down to the magical word of new dietary ingredient.
What was the name of that again?
Picatropin, Pikatropin.
Picatropin. So that was on the market. Then they pulled it because of the stuff you were talking about earlier being an NPI.
You have a new dietary ingredient, and some say this in that city.
What was it? What was the new dietary ingredient they said that classified it that got it pulled?
Well, they're saying just it couldn't be naturally gotten from an extract. That's
Where was it coming from?
a lab.
Yeah, they just put this shit together somewhere. It had no natural properties at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can hypothetically, within the case of that, it was a synthetic version. The thing is, it sucks, is that was a great ingredient. You get a badass focus from it.
Yeah.
So essentially,
how do these work? What are the catalysts? What are the what are some of the what's the word I'm looking for? The not catalysts, but help me out here.
The pathways of which they work, correct?
Yeah. Well, how are they working pathways? But it's not actually the word I was looking for. What's the Kickstarter? What's the come on, I'm losing my mind here. Not catalyst, but the oh well, somebody's yelling at me in their car if they're listening to live or they're listening to this podcast. Yeah, on Monday, where they're screaming the word, they're telling me what it is.
Yeah, we both get that blank spot. The guys with master's degrees were the idiots somehow.
Right. Come on, Adam. When they come together, something happens.
You'll be sitting by yourself tonight eating some ice cream, chilling there on your couch, and you're like, "Fuck me."
I will too. I'm like, what the? And anyway, so how's it work? How's the catalyst work? I keep using that word, but
essentially they work to increase brain function. And the simplest way of putting that is they increase whether it be blood flow or just like the way the neurons fire and just help the brain mentally focus. That's the simplest way of putting that.
Any activating chemical, any one or two activating chemicals or activating compounds. Maybe that's what I was looking for. The activators. That's not it either, but you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah. Once again, the best way I'm going to put this is I'm still learning on this, and my train of thought with this is if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. Therefore, I'm not going to try to explain something that's not my specialty.
You know what we sum that up to is stay in your lane, homie.
Mm-hmm. And nootropics not my lane. Once again, it's so new in the market that I'm more in terms. My specialties are in fatty acids and branched chain amino acids and aminos, like specifically branched chains and the fatty acids. Those are my two specialty ingredients along with creatine.
Okay, well then 5-HTP's off the table then too, huh?
Yeah, just in terms of I can tell you a bit about it, but it won't be anything mind-blowing compared to some of the shit I could tell you about fats or creatine.
Okay, go there.
Okay.
Class is back in session, sir.
All right. This is actually, I don't know why, whatever fats are my favorite macronutrients. There you go. I said the word macros. I need to punch myself.
Yeah, he's smart guy. He used the word macro. He knows what he's talking about by his shit.
Fats are very fascinating. They're one of the most powerful things on the planet in terms of how they can influence your diet. Most people, they like to think things are cut and dry when it comes to fat of good or bad. Or they get a little more scientific, or they say saturated versus unsaturated.
Or trans fat, right?
Or trans fat. Well, trans saturated is a saturated fat, technically. I'll touch on that in a second.
Remember, we're not you. We don't know what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like the Franken fat. The truth of fats is most people will say, should I eat this kind or should I not? That's not always the case. The best way I put this is you do a balance of a little bit of everything. Because some people will say
low trans fat or no trans fat is bullshit or doesn't mean anything or is bad.
I'll start out with trans fat. Transaturated fat is bullshit. It's a chemically synthesized version of fat. Essentially what they're doing is they're taking an unsaturated fat and molecularly changing it, injecting hydrogen into it to make it a saturated fat. That way it's literally a man-made fat.
Why would they do that?
Well, essentially back in the 40s and 50s when they were looking for cooking alternatives, especially like fast food, is that traditionally foods cook better in saturated fat compared to unsaturated fat. And the downside of saturated fat is that they don't have as long of a shelf life. They come from animal sources. So what they did is they were taking an unsaturated fat source, whether it be a vegetable oil, corn oil, so on and so forth, and they'd inject it with hydrogen, making it a saturated fat. Therefore, they could sustain a higher smoke point, or aka the point that can be heated before it burns, it increases the shelf life, all these wonderful things. But then it also, your body can't digest it. It causes digestive issues, and it can lead to cancer in some cases. There's really no need. Yes, there can be some naturally occurring transaturated fats, but the shitty part about this is, the food industry runs so many things. Technically, a product can claim to have 0 grams of trans fat if it has less than half a gram per serving. So 0 doesn't always mean 0. You can have something that has like 0.49999 to infinity amount of saturated fat per serving, and still your trans fats add up. Like say an average American diet, like say they have like 2 servings of chips. It's made like, for example, just throwing this out there. They have like say 2 servings. Okay, if each one had just under half a gram in a serving, you had 2 servings of chips. You're almost at a gram a day. Say like you have like a meal later on, something processed. Once you claim the same thing, and you have a serving of that, there's a gram and a half. And then you round out your day. They have like some hell, they have like some cheap cookies with their kids, something like that. It has some trans fat in there. The daily limit is 2 grams. Is what generally considered safe. And without even knowing it, you're on your paper, you add it up, you have no trans fat in your diet, but they can sneak in. That's a shitty part of how they can deceivingly label something as having no trans fat.
Yeah, Brett actually, Richard, the host of ESPN, was talking about in the nutrition report yesterday, and it was a lot of math, so I lost him. And he got into some math part about 2,000 calories can equal up to like some half a gram of trans fat, and then they can say that it has no trans fat acid or something. I don't know. You're going to have to listen to that show when it comes on, man. It's funny how we got in that realm. So really the trans fat is just basically a...
it's a frankenfat.
Yeah, I love how you said it. So it's just a frankenfat that they put in stuff so it lasts longer.
It's one of those things that really has no benefit to it whatsoever, aside from the longer shelf life. It's just a product rather than a food. But let's not bag on that. Let's talk about some good things in terms of fats.
You radio motherfucker. Did you catch yourself right there?
Yeah.
Did you catch yourself in that 2-minute interview mode you flip back to?
Yeah, this is
talk about some good things. That was good, though. You're fucking good, man. You are. You're fucking good.
Hey, I appreciate the words, my brother. We'll do some big things if people, don't break off the knob on the radio. They might tune back into us again.
Hey, not my listeners, man. My listeners know uncomfortable is where the change is. So we sit in that uncomfortable, holy shit, I could be wrong idea. Now, we may not like it, and we may bitch and moan while we're sitting in the middle of that uncomfortable shit, but at any minute, we're going to go, yeah, I get it. We're wrong. You're right. Exactly. I'll fight you tooth and fucking nail. It'll look like I'm challenging you and I'm poking at you and I'm debating you. But what people always forget is at any second, I may just go, damn, you got me. You're right. Exactly. You're right. You got me. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So let's do it, though. So let's walk to the story. Man, you're seeing more and more of this with this primal blueprint diet. Mark Sisson talking about this.
There's a lot of good things, but like what I guess I was getting at is like, okay, first of all, fuck trans fat. There's no reason to have in your diet. But from the thing is, unfortunately, in diets in general or nutrition is not simple. Nutrition is complicated. And that's okay.
A lot of people say different, right? A lot of people are like, it's easy. You just eat things that don't have ingredients and you eat X amount a day and that's it. Oh, did I lose your brother? Oh, it may have lost him. That's all right. We'll get him right back. No worries. He's pretty quick to the technology. So I'm surprised we've gone an hour and 10 minutes without a hiccup yet in the technology. That's pretty good, especially because it's been pouring down here in Orlando. The sun just came out, as you saw on my face not too long ago, but generally quick, and he's always right back like I said he would be, man. So we started walking out of the trans fat era and into talking about some good positive things like the saturated fat.
I'm back.
Yeah, yeah, I got you, brother. I've been introing you the whole time. Looks like you came from another channel.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my Surface is shut off. It's on the damn charger. I don't know why, but it just shut off. So I immediately grabbed my phone, and we're back on.
Hey, no worries, brother. You know what? Look, I got to make a confession. I kind of like it sometimes when it goes out because then I get to talk as long as I want to. And one of the challenges for me, honestly, man, on this podcast, every time I sit down and I fail every single podcast, my goal is to bite my tongue and not say anything. And the longer I can do that, the better I've done on the podcast. And I get to fail all the time.
Yep. And you know what? It's great because it's engaging. You want to oh, shit. You just want to learn more. That's awesome. So I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But
keep going. I'm here today. So walk me down this saturated. We were talking about I had mentioned a question about Primal Blueprint, Mark Sisson, and this idea about, eating good fats. Well, I've heard like 50-55% of the diet.
I haven't learned, once again, I don't mean to have my own blinders on in my own little world there, but I think people, they generalize too much. They try to put things too much in numbers. The main thing that I've been interested in fats is people like to simplify good or bad when they talk saturated fat. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, that's not always the case. There's more than one type of saturated fat. There's more than one type of unsaturated fat. And the funny thing is, there's always a positive and a negative to every single kind. Like, for example, in unsaturated fat, everybody thinks, oh my goodness gracious, unsaturated fat's the best thing ever. Okay, what are you talking about? Okay, say pick like
Avocado.
monounsaturated, which would be like omega-3s. Okay, so with that one, that's fish oil, omega-3s. They're great. They're great for digestion, your heart health. They can be improve mood if you have like a certain amount of grams. There's just a bunch of great things in terms of omega-3s. However, the downside, okay, the con, if you're using high amounts of omega-3s in your diet, it can be overly anathrombotic. In other words, it prevents clotting in the blood, but if you have too much omega-3s, it can thin your blood too much, and your blood will not clot properly. So that can be a side effect. Another one, which is very, honestly, very overdone these days in diet, big thing people need to focus more on, is polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs, think puffy, because they're inflammatory. An unsaturated fat, yes, causes inflammation. And the downside is these days in diets, a lot of people have a very high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. So therefore, they're having too many inflammatory fats compared to omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. The Western diet in the United States is very heavy in omega-6s because think of the sources: vegetable oil, corn oil, canola oil. All those are very high in omega-6. Even things that are
you call them polyunsaturated, and the definition essentially of those would be what?
That's it. Polyunsaturated fat is just the name of it.
Oh, right. Give me an example.
Yeah.
I meant example.
Oh, like corn oil, like vegetable oil.
That's right.
Basically, like vegetable-derived fats, many of them are polyunsaturated. The things like even certain nuts can be higher in polyunsaturated, so it's important to check the ratios. If you look into the nutrition facts deep enough, it'll list
Any
it
nuts to
sometimes.
avoid besides mine in your face?
Oh shit!
No, I'm kidding. Which one?
Actually,
For real?
most of them actually. Actually, one, like, once again, I don't want to throw them on the bus because it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just
Right,
have
I
to,
get it. Like it's
balance your
individual.
fats.
Right, it's individual.
One that people will get carried away with because it is unsaturated fats, good for fiber, it's better than peanuts. It's like a lot of people, I do a lot of almonds, but they are high in polyunsaturated fat. So I'm not telling you not to eat almond butter. Almond butter is great. It's calorie dense. It's got a good source of fiber. It tastes good. You got a lot of nutrients in it. It's a great thing, but then, it is high in unsaturated fat. So that's one thing people need to consider is, exactly what their fat balance is. So basically, it's a pretty simple. If you want to do it, like a good rule of thumb is if you cook, don't use shitty vegetable oils. Use something like olive oil, or even better, like a coconut oil. Or if you try to eat less processed stuff, if you don't eat things that have corn oil and all that crap added to it, that cuts down that intake dramatically. That way you can have.
You scare me with the nuts thing, man, because I am a pumpkin seeds freak. And just recently, man, I'm so proud of myself. I've been a sunflower seed freak. And like since I was 10, like I used to think if they ever did sunflower seed eating Olympics, like I would win. Like I would be like, glory blades out there just clicking and spitting. You know what I mean? And now I made the switch though off of the sunflower seeds once I looked up some of the damn ingredients in those David sunflower seeds, man. And I was like, wait a minute, my whole life I've been eating this chemical. There's 2 chemicals in it. And I switched now to pumpkin seeds, which is fine. But so that's why I was asking, is there any certain nut to really avoid in mass quantities?
No, well, mass quantities, yeah. Anything in excess is going to be bad. It's just almonds. You can still eat almonds. They're perfectly fine. It's just a matter of, are you getting your omega-3s as well? Don't make all your fats one kind. Don't get all of them from pumpkin seed. Don't get all of them from almond. But make sure you're having your omega-3s in there. Take your fish oil. Eat your salmon. Things that are high in sources of omega-3 as well, to kind of balance it out. You need a balance. The same thing with unsaturated fat. There's many different types. There's lauric acid, stearic acid, palmitic acid, all those different types. Even medium chain triglycerides are technically saturated fats. There's different benefits of each. Some can impact your HDL positively. Some can worsen your LDL, so it can balance out. Some of them can be slightly inflammatory. But the thing is, there's different pros and cons to each type of fat. So that's why I like to say a balance of fats is the best approach, because you don't want to cut out saturated fats. Saturated fats are essential for hormone production, for healthy hormone balance. They serve a good function in the body. So people
like a couple saturated fats. Those are good tips about saturated. Walk through some of the saturated myths, morals, suggestions, topics.
Well, essentially, just keep it balanced. I mean, one to talk on, because it's really hot these days, is medium chain triglycerides. This is a very interesting fat, and a lot of times, like even fats, even though most people think, like for example, do you know how many calories are in a gram of fat?
Not off the top of my head. Maybe what, 1,000? I don't know.
9.
109. All right,
9.
100.
Just 9. Like per gram of fat, there's 9 calories. There's 9 calories per gram. Same with the carbohydrates and proteins are 4 calories per gram.
I'm not a numbers guy. That's why when you ask me, I don't track my calories. I don't track my protein intake. I eat like a natural. I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm not, I'll even fast intermittently too between days. Like I'm too old to be all that big anymore, bro.
No worries, no worries. But like the point I was getting at is typically fat is regarded as having 9 calories per gram. However, in certain things, in capric acids, which are a type of saturated fat, medium triglycerides, they technically are a shorter fatty acid chain and only have 6 calories per gram. Therefore, these fats technically do have less calories per gram, and they're metabolized a little bit differently. They can increase metabolism. They can have just some good effects on body composition. But, there's a lot of emerging fun things on fats. They can also increase mTOR in terms of muscle protein synthesis. It's just an amazing thing about what these fats can do. And that's why you don't limit, never touch that fat, never touch this. But,
one of those points from Mark Sisson's book, that blueprint they talk about is, moving to anywhere from the 50-55% range in fats like avocados, etc., and upping that as to keep your energy up, because you're essentially eating, I think it's like 12 to 24 carbs a day because they just come through the vegetables, etc.
Yeah, it's essentially doing a less of a starch and carbohydrate-based diet, like, not having a direct source of grains, things like that, more toward the naturally occurring fats and proteins. So it's a nice balanced approach.
I did that thing. I did it for a little bit, man. And I tell you what, when I didn't up the fats up all the way to 50-55, brother, I was dead. I was falling asleep.
Yep.
I was history. I really had, I was like 3 or 4 avocados in the afternoon I was eating, try to get that percentage up there. I mean, what are some foods that are saturated actually that somebody should, that are okay to balance it out with?
Saturated fat, one of my favorite ones is the big one these days is coconut oil. It's a good source of saturated fat. Any type of animal is going to have saturated fat in there, so it's going to have a balance. Like it'll be lean beef, chicken breast, things like that. Any animal source is going to have amounts of saturated fat. Certain fish, of course, like salmon, is going to be more toward the unsaturated omega-3 side. But once again, it's about a balance. There's no cookie cutter diet for everybody. Some people, respond differently to different things.
Is that why you said, when you said that, good nutrition is not easy? And I was kind of like, well, I've heard a lot of people and so-called pros say the difference, where they say, it's easy. Just eat things that don't have ingredients, eat when you're hungry, and eat natural. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, that's like another good approach too. So once again, contradicting myself right here. Like nutrition is not simple. It's not easy. It's not like this, nonchalant thing. There's a lot of science behind it, but the general thumb to make it simple is eat food and not food products. The less processed something is, the better it is for you. There you go. It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to figure out that, like a baked potato is going to be better for you than French fries. It's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure out that chicken nuggets aren't going to be on the same par as a chicken breast. Typically the less processed something is, the better it's going to be for you.
Yeah, I don't think you contradict yourself, bro, because the world that you live in is a science. The world that you live in is beyond, just eat that. I love what you said, though. Don't eat food products. That's awesome. But eat food, not food products. And yes, these are basic, and you're not contradicting yourself, because that's what some people need, because that's what they need. But the world you live in and have lived in and are a specialist in is in these specifics, down these rabbit holes of specific of numbers, ingredients, and measurements. So, you don't. It did, like you said in the beginning. You said there's levels, and there's that level, eat non-food products, and then there's the level that dive into even more now, man. Let's get deep. You talked about some creatine issues and some. This is a well-known supplement. It's been around for a while.
Absolutely.
Let's dive in that, man. For class 3.
Okay. Perfect. Well, a good chunk here. Once again, we got to do some other things in the office today, but I'm not cutting you short by any means, but I can talk on this for a long time, just foreshadowing. Creatine, we talked about it yesterday, is Yeah, it's one of the most thoroughly researched supplement of all time. I'll say hands down, the only one that comes close to that is probably whey protein. And creatine, there's a lot of myths, misconceptions about it, whether it be the mother concerned about their son taking it, whether it be the average person thinking it's a steroid, or so on and so forth. You and I chatted yesterday, like say a lot of times people, they'll assume creatine causes cramping, creatine can hurt your kidneys, creatine is a steroid, creatine, can cause, dehydration, or it can cause compartment syndrome, all these different things like that. The thing is, literally for every single one of those things, even working in the sales side of things, retail, some mom, like, I don't want creatine, or something, I don't want to take creatine because of this. And like, I literally have 4 studies at minimum on every single one of those things done on human subjects, disproving that. And the key case of that is typically, creatine, it is like, I guess, drawing water into the cells and hydration. If you're not getting adequate hydration, it can simply amplify a problem. If you're not having enough water intake, it can, of course, make you cramp a little bit because it can amplify that you're already dehydrated. If you're having kidney issues, this is very, very, very rare. It's because the athlete was dehydrated. If they're having
I feel
issues
bad.
with
I
other
was that
things,
coach, man. When I was coaching 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, I told a couple kids that were, 16 starting to take that stuff when I was like, no, man, it'll mess up your kidneys. It dehydrates you. That was me, man, spitting that bullshit.
Yep.
Damn, I gotta take
And
my
it's
video
amazing,
down, man.
It's all good. Creatine, it's one of the most amazing supplements. And everybody knows essentially what creatine does. It's adenosine triphosphate is what your muscles function on. It's what it causes them to fire. Essentially, it's a currency that your muscles use to contract, to fire. Therefore, when you take creatine, it provides that extra fuel. It tops off the creatine stores, the extra ATP on hand, allowing your body to perform that 1 extra rep or that extra, 2 extra reps, therefore translating to more work capacity, translating into more strength and then size gain. So it essentially increases performance.
Is there any different of function in creatine in men and women?
No, it is creatine. It's non-hormonal. It affects women and men in the same way. I know. Yeah, absolutely. It's literally, creatine's a naturally occurring thing. This occurs in like high amounts in red meat, so creatine's a naturally occurring substance. It's perfectly fine. But where I was going with that is a lot of times I only think of it for muscle performance. A big thing that I'm fascinated with, and I'm doing a lot of course, research and following quite closely, as I, don't get to do anything in the lab these days as much as I like to in terms of research, is creatine and your forte, cognition. There's a lot of good support. Once again, I can't remember all of them on top of my head in terms of supporting preventive Alzheimer's. There's creatine showing support in terms of helping athletes return from concussions. There's support of creatine helping just overall cognition and mental focus. Like literally, you can take creatine, you'll be swole and smarter. It's just a great,
We're almost to that limitless drug, man.
Exactly. Creatine, this is amazing. It's so many things it's been underutilized for, and like, even in older populations, or people say, "Oh, older people shouldn't take creatine; it can be harmful for them, be hard on their body." No, hell, to give them creatine will help them think. It'll help preserve their brain.
Well, why such a negative spin on all this shit, man? Why the spiel of it'll kill your kid's kidneys and dehydrate you, and it's not real, and what?
Well, the thing is, it's all about the media and a lot of things. Something if it's not thoroughly researched or misunderstood, it can be new. Anything that people see results from or is something that works, and obviously it's going to be at the microscope, then everybody's like, okay, this could be too good to be true in terms of what it's seeing for kids taking it or athletes taking this. And then sure enough, when somebody comes on, oh, they're on creatine, it's caused that. And then the myth starts, and then, okay, A to B, what was this athlete taking that they had this reaction or whatever? Oh, it must have been the creatine. The media takes it, they carry it, and then myth becomes fact. So, there's a lot of outside factors on many different things most people do not consider. So the thing is, the research has been done on all these things, and some it just needs to be put out there even more so for people to kind of put these myths to bed. They're finally getting much and much and much better about that these days. It's dying down. But then the next part that'll be very, exciting is when it comes down to what it, like I said, can do for cognition in terms of Alzheimer's patients, in terms of all those things. And, it's just a very amazing thing.
Now, wasn't there this new creatine HP or creatine? There's a new formula apparently that's supposed to be better. I actually had a couple guys, and they were guys, not girls, that told me at Europa that they had this new specialized creatine, this new, what's it called, creatine?
I, once again,
HP something? Yeah, you could. You said it yesterday on the interview.
Oh, creatine hydrochloride.
Yeah. There was, but they added something to
That
it.
isn't. The thing is that if you're thinking about creatine hydrochloride, that isn't new in any way, shape, or form. That's been around for quite some time now. That's one I was just talking about in general. Is really, they say it absorbs more effectively and more efficiently than normal creatine monohydrate. Therefore, you have to use less. It's more effective. It doesn't draw water in the intestinal walls. Although that's great because the only studies you can find on it are very limited. You really can't find them with a fucking scoop shovel. Is the one of them was done in a test tube in vitro, which wasn't even in a human body, and the other one was done by the company that created creatine hydrochloride. Therefore, I find it biased. Okay, where's your outside source supporting what you're saying? It's great. You put it in a little PowerPoint, you put it out there to the world. This is what we found. But then again, okay, nobody else is, supporting this to a level to make me justify the cost or say, yes, this is the superior form of creatine. So that was creatine hydrochloride, if that's what we're mentioning. But the thing is, in the industry, we talked about this yesterday too, people try to reinvent the wheel. They're trying to do, you're not going to reinvent creatine. I'm sure I'm going to eat those words someday. So I'm going to come up with something. But creatine is creatine. There's different forms. There's creatine nitrate.
Go for a prediction. What's somebody, since you're so involved and you see products that are 2-3 years out from breaking. So, I mean, give the forecast. What bullshit do you see somebody pitching that is some new advanced formula of creatine?
In terms of creatine, I really have no idea what somebody's going to try to do. People have tried doing different delivery methods, whether it be chewable creatine compared to drinkable one, or whether they have the additive to creatine. Oh, this makes creatine absorb better. For the longest time, everybody's saying you had to load creatine or you had to ingest a bunch of sugar with it. So, like good old Cell Tech back in the day on the packaging of the contents of Muscle Tech is put on 6 pounds in 3 days. You look at the back of the container, it's like 10 grams of creatine and 60 grams of sugar. You're super saturating your body with all this sugar. Of course, you're holding fucking water weight because you're pounding sugar, But that's old school back then. It's been fixed, thankfully. But, that's a good example, that there's Cell Tech because it can be the old ongoing joke. But, the industry's come a long ways. But in terms of predictions, I guess we can move a little bit from creatine this in the industry. Like you mentioned earlier, nootropics kind of popped up for a bit, and I have a feeling they're going to come back in a lot more things like that with different exciting, I guess, alternatives to these powerful stimulants, which is good. Another thing you're going to see a big trend swinging further is a lot of people are moving away, thankfully, from proprietary blends into more transparency in the industry, which is huge because this industry is going to need a lot of self-regulation.
All right. Yeah, you broke off there for a minute. Explain what you mean when you say proprietary blends moving to transparent labels.
Okay. Proprietary blends, honestly, they're on the, I guess, supplements, a lot of them these days, as in companies will list the ingredients in the product, like say in a pre-workout, they have their pump blend, or they have their strength blend, and there's thermo or stimulant blend. In other words, within that blend, they'll list the ingredients they have, but they'll put say 5,000 milligrams of these 6 ingredients. They don't tell you how much of each ingredient makes up that certain amount. So therefore, it's called a trade secret. They pretend they don't have to disclose how much is in it because it's their own proprietary formula that they cannot disclose. But okay, if you have say a product that has 5 grams a scoop of active ingredients, like a concentrate per workout, and you have creatine, beta alanine, caffeine, and say branched-chain amino acids in a 5-gram scoop. Okay, well, here's the thing. The clinically validated dose of creatine is 5 grams, creatine monohydrate. So even right off the bat, okay, I have other ingredients in here. How can I possibly have the full validated dose of creatine if there's a 5-gram serving and I need 5 grams of creatine? There's a certain shit like that, So the thing people are moving away from, they're more doing better fully dosed ingredients, or they're just making sure to list exactly how much of each ingredient is in the product. Therefore, being transparent about what they're doing in their formulation.
Man, I know we started about a half an hour late, man. If you got to run, what I'd like to do, man, is if you're free tomorrow, let's pick up and do a part 2, and I'll put this podcast out as fast as I can, maybe even Sunday before Monday. And then we'll drop part 2 Monday. If you want to come back to this tomorrow, man, we've hit an hour and a half, but it was my fault. I was stuck across town and I got back here, but we're hitting an hour and a half. We can knock an hour and a half because I want to get into the protein stuff we talked about. Then I want to get into the actual science, some research, some stuff you've been pulling, man. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. What time are you thinking tomorrow, good sir?
Oh man, we'll make it work, dude. I made you late today, so make me late for whatever tomorrow. I'll shape around your time tomorrow.
Perfect. Well, I'll hit you up later tonight. We'll get something figured out there, and we'll do something in the afternoon. That cool?
I love it. People listen to this podcast are gonna go, wait, you just stopped. You fed me all of this stuff and you just stopped, and that's what I love to do, man. I think this is a killer place to stop it at, man. And anytime tomorrow, I'm gonna be around the house. It's tomorrow's Get Some Sunday, so I'll be hanging around, but I'll be ready to record when you are, dude.
Okay. Basically, I'm gonna go finish up some stuff now. Just because I've literally been at work in this extra office for this podcast, doing this. So I need to go get this more stuff taken care of. I'll talk to my girl tonight, and then I know we've got some plans tomorrow night, and we'll probably train in the morning, or where she wants to train at night, whatever we want to do training wise. I have nothing going on.
We're live right now, so let's plan this off the air, brother.
Perfect. Sounds
good.
We
are doing this tomorrow, though. Part 2 coming up tomorrow. Myself and Drew Peters. And if you watch this live, if you've been watching from our third rank, remember, if you're tuning in here, the viewers that you see here are not trackable. We trace those on a different system. But for those listening or those watching, we will be back tomorrow to finish this. And if you want to, email at cognitiveRampage@gmail.com any questions that you have for Drew, and we'll see if we can get there. As you see, he knows if it's not his lane, he stays out of it, and he stays in his lane, as do I. So any questions you guys may have, maybe we'll try to wrap some up as you're watching this. I'm going to go ahead and put this live on YouTube, brother, and let this see out too, man. So thanks. Let's pick up tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you then, sir.
All right, man. Love you, boo. Later.
Oh, I love, man. Have a good night.
I didn't call you a boo. Just I was about to say I love you, bro. And then I promised. I said I love you, bro, and I backed up and said, "Boo, man, that was bad."
It popped out. That's all good.
Yeah, but
everybody loves a vanilla gorilla.
I love it. How couldn't you, man? Have a good one, dude.
Oh, you too. Peace.
Bye.